Hey guys, quickly. Hey, thank you so much, everyone. Hi, Ken. Hello. Afternoon, Doc Steve. I hope you guys do.
Hey.
I'm right in space right now, and I'm happy to welcome all and everybody of you guys to this amazing little panel for the next 55, 60 minutes, talking about frequency, vibrations, energy, and the coil, and the difference between microcurrent and the coil. But first of all, I want to make a quick introduction of what is actually Healy. I know there are a few people of you guys very new to Healy, and I'm just telling you guys, it's been a ride the last 2 years and a bit, and a few months, we've been proving a unicorn to this world, a new concept, something which is not too new, especially not for Doc Steve and also Ken and everybody of you guys, because it has something to do with the most fundamental form of life, which is our energy, and frequencies are everywhere. And now we are able to tap into this unbelievable, what we call the information field, the quantum field. Now there's light coming into my face. It's amazing. It's just incredible. It's also frequency, by the way. But now we are talking about this the last 2 years. It's been amazing. It's been incredible because we've been proving the world that we have something in our hand which is changing the world. Okay. In the beginning, we started by maybe not knowing what it is. Until now, we probably don't even know what it is, but it's changing people's lives. And it's the most beautiful thing and time for this thing to be around, because we live in the world right now with a low vibration, the vibration of fear, the vibration of having no freedom, the vibration of the C word, the ugly, dirty C word. And right now we have an opportunity to not only survive, but also to thrive, to get ourselves lifted into a more beautiful frequency and state of mind by using a tool which is called the Healy, which is basically, helping us to become more aware, helping us to become more balanced in our life, helping us to clean out all the rubbish in our emotional, mental, and also spiritual energy field. Because believe it or not, you are an energy field with a body and not a body with an energy field, because you may be just 5%, maybe just 1% of what all there is. And we now tapping right into this. So it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a blessing. And right now we have over 200,000 Healys in the world. Okay, over 200, because of people like you, because of all the people who went out and made it to their mission and vision to go out and share this beautiful device to as many people as possible, because we already know if it has done so many good things to thousands of people, it will do more good things to millions of people. So why not make it to responsibility, to your duty and obligation to go out and share it to more people, because we know it is very good. So with that said, I just want to introduce our two panel guests tonight, Mr. Doc Steve, the legend himself, who's already in the frequency therapy space since 25 years. And before you start speaking, Doc Steve, I'm going to put Ken quickly on the spot as well. And my beloved friend, and I would say he is my personal Dr. Joe Dispenza, because nobody knows frequency and energy and vibration. He is a human battery. He's that person. He's lighting up and lighting up the rooms. We went to several bars together, but also to the gym. And every time he beats me, no matter how late in the night, no matter how early in the morning, because he really understands how to use frequency on his own body and make himself to the living Healy himself. So who could be better today to really go deeper into the topics of Healy? But we need to, we can have this panel now for the next 6.5 hours. If you want to stay on, it's now late already, so I'm not going to do this. But we're going to cut it down a little bit, because we want to talk about two main things. One thing is the microcurrent, which we are using with the cables here from the Healy, which is hanging here with a mask on. Jesus, that's a mask on my head. I can't even see it because it's in space. There's the cables, the microcurrent comes into your body, increases your ATP, increases your protein synthesis, has all these amazing physical benefits for you. But now we have a new thing, and I still don't have it, but I know Doc Steve and Ken, you have it. So maybe Doc Steve, maybe you can jump in and start. Thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. Amazing to have you on. Amazing to have 218 participants so far on this call. I'm really blessed to work together with you guys, bring this mission on, and then pick on your brains, guys, because you are the absolute amazing experts. The one guy understands the frequency in machines, and I'm talking too much. I know the other guy is the frequency machine itself. So who could be better? Doc Steve, maybe you can make a quick introduction about yourself for everybody who doesn't know Doc Steve. But if you don't know Doc Steve, you probably don't know much, because everybody knows Doc Steve. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that intro, Max. It's great to be here today. Ken and I are coming off of at least 4 hours of Zoom calls today that we did already. It's been a long day, but very happy to be here, always with you, Max, and with Taryn when she's available. So my background, well, I've been in practice now, 44 years as of this week. Believe it or not, I started in June of 1977. So 44 years starting out in the field and space of, functional medicine, preventive medicine, anti-aging medicine, homeopathy, all of that stuff. And then about 25 years ago, I got involved in frequency medicine and never looked back in terms of that, because to me that's the ultimate way of working with patients. And then I like to always say, I always like to use the word, I manifested Healy into my life back in October of 2019, probably around the time you did, Max. And I was basically looking for a device that I could offer to my patients to extend the work that I was doing with them in my office. I have a professional frequency device. They run usually in the $30,000 price range, take many years to learn how to use, and they're great, but they're only accessible through a practitioner. And my whole point of view has been recently that self-care is the new healthcare. In other words, we need to start to turn the responsibility of people's health back over to them rather than relying on other people and practitioners to treat them, especially with what's happened in the last, year and a half. And I think it's so interesting that Healy came into our space at this moment in time rather than other times. And it was a time when we really all needed to have the ability to self-care because we couldn't access a lot of the healthcare facilities, at least here in the States, because they were all completely booked or shut down, etc. And so I manifested Healy back in October of 2019, and it's been an amazing journey for me and for all the people that I've connected with. And I feel that of my experience in the field of frequency medicine, I pretty much know everything that's out there, at least something somebody has shown me, told me, I've seen everything around. And at this point in time, I feel that Healy is the best device that one can own in order to work with themselves on this level successfully in pretty much every area. Has a lot of inherent benefits that other devices don't have, like the ability to scan oneself to determine specifically which frequencies one needs in the moment for the condition. And that's a real important distinction I'm making here, because if you've looked at frequency devices out there, you'll realize that most other frequency devices that are on the market, although they may be okay or good or people use them, they're very limited in that they follow a similar approach. I kind of call it a cookbook approach. Basically, you have a situation that you're trying to work on. You look up in a book or online specific frequencies that are known to treat those conditions, and then you deliver those frequencies to you, be it directly, be it by sound, be it by many modalities. The issue is that everyone then starts to treat those conditions with the identical frequencies, and every time you use that device to treat yourself, irregardless of where you are in your place of healing, it's always the same. And that's not how the body works. The body works in the whole realm of what I call biochemical individuality. Everyone is unique and different as much as your fingerprints, and therefore you can't treat everybody the same or use the same frequencies or treat the same condition every day, because if you do that, you're only really scratching the surface and you don't get far. And I always, compare it to the whole aspect of, being on a diet per se. And the bottom line is that if you're going on a diet for looking for weight loss, and everyone is on the same diet, obviously there's no diet out there that actually works. If it is, everyone would be thin and everyone would be happy, and yet everyone jumps from diet to diet to diet and tries it out, because in order to really be successful, you need to have something created for you as an individual. And that's what I do in my practice. I create programs, protocols, diets, etc. for the specific individual, because everyone is unique. Well, Healy has that ability, the ability to, in the moment, determine, based on our level of artificial intelligence, exactly which frequencies one needs at that moment in time, which will change. So say, for example, I'm treating myself today for a headache, and tomorrow I also have a headache. Well, the frequencies that I've been using today to treat myself are going to be absolutely different than the ones that come up tomorrow. And if I have 10 people in the room and all of them have headaches, and I walk around the room and look at their devices, I will see that each one of them has a different set of frequencies that are coming down that's specific and unique to their body, their situation, their chemistry, etc. And so that uniqueness of Healy really, to me, sets it apart from anything else that's available today.
Amazing. And I absolutely agree. I mean, Healy is like, for everybody who doesn't know, right? It's a super extremely fashionable device, but there was never a time, and I know Ken Close can confirm that we talk more about energy, vibration, and frequency than now and today. Now it feels like a mega trend, right? You come up with a device which does this magic, what Dr. Steve just explained. It almost feels like this is a mega marketing trend. So why not put something right into the space where everybody starts becoming aware, start taking more care of their own well-being and meditation and becoming more conscious. So why not doing a device like that? But guys, the Healy comes from a technology called Time Waver, and Time Waver is already the market-leading device in the space since 15 plus years. So the technology has been developed over years, over more than 1.5 decades meanwhile, and it's so super sophisticated. It has done and created so many changes in people's lives. So the idea came really up, how can have more people access to frequency? And this is the answer, right? Before, we always needed a big frequency device as the Time Waver and a doctor as Doc Steve in order to make us feel better, in order to help us with our emotional baggages, in order to help us with our physical pain, in order to help us with whatever the problem, the issue, or whatever support we were urging and needing for. But now we have basically this little device in our pocket with a therapist in our pocket, because all we need to do is choose the program. And as Doc Steve already mentioned, it's not just a headache program or just a detox program. It is tailor-made for you, because you are individual. You are very different from me, from anybody else, and your energy is always changing, and the Healy will detect where you're out of balance and then send you exactly the right frequencies. And how does he do that? He does it, and this is what we talk about today, because we got not too much time to go off topic all the time. He does it with a micro-current now, and also with a coil. And now, Ken, after you say a couple words for you, and I just want to I want to understand, and maybe you can share also where your energy comes from, why you are always so loaded and high energy, and why you're so passionate about sharing Healy to the world. After this one, you maybe can explain what are you wearing right now there, and what is hanging there, and what program you're running, and what is the coil doing for you.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love your energy too, Max. It's always fun to hang out with you, and I had some great opportunities to do that, and I think we walk into a room, I think the energy instantly doubles. So thank you for that.
Amplifying.
You mentioned something about myself and a journey with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Those of you who aren't aware of Dr. Joe, he uses the understanding of science to demystify the mystical, to try to give meaning to the unseen. And that's a pretty cool venture, because the more value we put into something, the more effect it's probably going to have in our lives. And so my background is in engineering, in electronics engineering specifically. And over the years, I've worked with a lot of people in the fitness industry. And my engineering brain is always analyzing and looking for solutions. And it looks from not just what I call the trenches or the moment of life, but it looks from a higher perspective, the 10,000 foot perspective. And it looks at the landscape of life. And it tries to meld what's going on cosmically with what's going on microly. And so within the body, there's certain things that happen. And our energies, what I've changed over the years is as evolving from nutritional coaching into personal coaching, and now into what I call epigeneering. And this is a way of really taking our genetic code and moving it to another level. And so I've been refining that concept of being an epigeneer. And to be honest with you, every single one of you guys are an epigeneer as well, and I'll explain why later. But our ability to shift and adjust our genetic code is phenomenal. There's an intelligence within the body. There's an intelligence within this universe that we can tap into. And when we tap into it properly, it equals higher energy or coherence. When we tap into it improperly, we wind up with a lack of coherence or incoherence. And so the body feels it. The more coherent we are with an aligned energy, the more energy we feel. I mean, many of you probably can relate. You wake up in the morning one day, you feel wow and great. Another day, you maybe don't feel wow and great. There's certain mindsets, there's certain energetic things that you're getting on board with that your body's just saying, okay, I'm in. And so if it's low energy profiles, your body's going to feel low. So there's a in the epigeneering phase of what I do, I work a lot with energy because that's 100% of what everything is, from the table that I'm sitting at to the thoughts that I'm having. They're just simply different vibrations of energy. The slower the vibration, the slower the frequency, the closer to density. The faster the frequency, the closer to energy. Pretty simple. And so that's what I've been doing, refining how to epigenetically engineer who we are. And Healy has aligned perfectly with that, because what I have right here on my shirt is the Healy with the coil attached to it. And this particular system, the way that the coil operates, is through the unseen. It works through an energetic signal. And so there's, do you want to get into that, Max? Do you want to go into that?
I think this is the topic today. We should talk about the microcurrent and we should talk about the coil. But maybe before we go into the coil, maybe we go more, because the coil is the new thing, right? The coil is the thing that I probably need another year to understand. But the microcurrent we have already. So maybe we start in explaining what the microcurrent does first, and then we go into the coil.
Sure. So I'm actually wearing both, by the way. So I've got the wrist bracelets on and one Healy on a tether under my shirt. And then I've got the coil attached to another one. And so we can do things simultaneously. We can influence both fields or both modalities at the same time. So let's talk about, Doc, let's talk about the microcurrent for a minute. You want to start?
Sure. So the microcurrent is basically, working on the physical level of the body. It's working on the cellular level of the body. We are all electrical beings. We know that. I mean, medicine has proven that, because how many of you have gone and gotten an EKG or an EEG? If we weren't electrical beings, we wouldn't be able to read those factors. And so knowing that, and knowing that the body is electrical, we want to try to find ways of specifically supporting that electrical current in our system. And the best way to do that is through, adding current into the system. And so we can do that with the Healy microcurrent. And basically what we're doing is we're looking at the cell level membrane, which is the membrane that is on the outside of all cells of the body. And, the way the body works in terms of receiving nutrition and detoxifying, it's that movement through that cell wall of ions going in, going out, that really helps conduct the electricity. And of course, we're made up of about 70% water. So we have that medium. So we have the medium of water and the medium of electrolytes, and that creates basically a battery. I like to, tell patients that it's almost akin that our bodies are like a flashlight. And when you buy a flashlight and you put brand new batteries in and then you go to use it, how that light beam shines out, and then over time, as those batteries start to be used up, that light gets lower and lower and lower, and finally one day you turn the flashlight on and it doesn't turn on because the batteries are gone. Well, it's akin to literally what happens in our bodies over time. And based on toxicity and stress and other issues in our environment that we're exposed to, it absolutely influences that electrical current. And so by using the microcurrent, delivering the microcurrent into the body, we're actually replenishing the electrical current that our body is using on a daily basis. And when we do that, a lot of inherent benefits occur, and you alluded to some of them at the beginning, Max, when you talked about energy and the fact that, in the cells we manufacture ATP, and when we deliver, which is the powerhouse of the cell, and when we provide microcurrent into the system, we're actually amplifying that, and it's been shown that we can increase our ATP stores by 500% just by adding microcurrent into our system. So our cell membrane potential ideally rests about what's called negative 70 millivolts. And over time, as we age and we're exposed to stress, which causes inflammation, which can cause other changes in the body and the cells, and then we get involved in terms of some type of a degenerative process. And as that cell membrane potential level keeps, dropping over time, you can start creating things like tumors in the body. And then ultimately, when there's zero cell membrane potential in your body, you're no longer living, because that's how you tell the difference between a person that's alive and a person that isn't, are they moving? Is there electricity moving and flowing? And at the same time, as that cell level membrane potential starts to decrease, the body becomes more and more acidic. And as we all know, living in an alkaline environment is the healthiest for our body. It also helps us to prevent a lot of those degenerative diseases. Stress, which we're all under these days more than we ever have, creates an acidic condition. It also creates that lowering of that voltage in the body. So by delivering the microcurrent, we're actually really simply just reversing that. We're putting actual electrical energy back into our body, back into our cells, restoring it back into the normal healthy level of negative 70 millivolts. And as I said, in previous talks, Max, what we have here is basically the ultimate anti-aging device, because the ability to return those cells to that, young, new state encourages the body, because every 7 years, if you're not aware, every 7 years we have a turnover of all of the cells of our body, basically, so that 7 years from now you're going to be you're literally going to be inhabiting a different body. So imagine the ability and the capability that we have now to repair wherever we are today, irregardless. We can always improve over time, and because we have that turnover, if we continually charge our body with the microcurrent, we can bring that level of electricity up. And it's simple with the Healy. Basically, what we're doing is we're plugging some electrodes directly into the Healy itself, and we're using either some wrist bracelets or we're using some sticky pads, and we're actually delivering an electrical current. And then, of course, the benefit of the Healy is that we have the ability to access 144,000 unique frequencies that ride along with the current in our body to the places that it needs. I kind of look at the frequencies as like the person driving the car, in that it directs the body into where, it directs the electrical signals into where in the body it's most needed. And so on its most basic level, microcurrent is something that, when somebody has a Healy, we recommend that they do, irregardless of whether you have a coil. There are 3 ways of delivering Healy programs. You always make sure that you do every week a number of microcurrent programs, irregardless of anything else you're doing, because you want to consistently keep the body electrically energized. You want to keep it alkaline. You want to keep that whole process moving, and you want to move again towards rebuilding and repair. So that's a little bit of an explanation.
Could you basically say, when I think about the cell, we could basically think in terms of a battery. So a cell is a battery. Yes. Right? And the longer you use this battery, the less energy it will have. So eventually the battery goes empty and dies out. This is our
That's right. That's why everyone goes to Starbucks and everyone buys Red Bull. I mean, when you think about it, in my practice, when a patient comes in and I ask them, why are you here? Inherently, almost every patient that comes in will say, besides what other issues are going on, Fatigue. Everyone wants energy. But they go, unfortunately, to artificial sources. So when you're going to something like Red Bulls or Starbucks, you're consuming caffeine, which is an artificial stimulant, which, in fact, could create a temporary boost for you, a temporary high, but on the cellular level, it's having actually the opposite effect. And over time, you just really get yourself into this situation where you start to deplete your adrenal glands, and you'll never really have that inherent energy. Where with the Healy, we can use the microcurrent, but we also have a program called Energy in the Healy that's designed to not only give us the microcurrent, but to deliver those specific frequency sets that will actually inherently increase the energy in the body itself.
Wow. So we have a battery, which is basically you're running out. Now we plug in the Healy, the two cables, and this energy in the battery increases.
That's right.
Again. So now what else do we need is, of course, sometimes in a battery, you need to change the old water. So we need to consistently drink a lot of water. Is that correct? So the frequency?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the most important factors in doing a Healy session, as I say to patients, is hydration. If you don't have proper hydration, you're not going to get a good result. And so therefore, I recommend that patients or anyone using a Healy consumes at least 2 to 3 liters of water a day, and make sure it's, spring water, good quality water, even structured water. And a lot of times, one of the things I'm able to find out in my practice is I have a method immediately when a person sits down and gets hooked up into finding out how hydrated they are. And I can tell you across the board that all patients that come to see me initially, 80% of them are dehydrated. 80% of all people out there are dehydrated. And therefore, it's not only, getting the good quality water, but again, structured water helps the body absorb and maintain that. But then I also recommend to many people that they actually add things like electrolytes into their water, because again, you want to conduct that electrical current, and the electrolytes like calcium, potassium, magnesium are the ions that make everything work in and out of the cell. And so absolutely, water is a key factor here in terms of making this work properly.
Beautiful. So guys, energy is life in the end of the day, right? We're looking at nutrition, we're also looking at motion, and we're looking at frequencies now. So we combine these 3 things together, and we can put ourselves back from survival into thrival, so forth, because we're recharging our batteries. And I know, and I think you know that better than I do, Ken. First of all, we are way more powerful beyond our greatest imagination. Okay. And I think, Ken, I don't know, I heard something one time about the cell voltage of a human being. And I don't know how many trillions of cells we have. But if we put them all together, we are like more powerful than I don't know how many lightning strikes. But we are extremely powerful, charged up beings, because everything is energy, and we are the most powerful things and beings on this planet with so much energy in us. I don't know, Ken, maybe you know about the cell voltage and how much we have, and why it is so important to to take care of this energy and balance this energy and put more energy into us.
Well, I love what you're saying there, because like Doc said, people are drinking the Red Bulls and they're going to Starbucks, they're getting the coffee and that kind of thing. And we are a system of regeneration. I call it repair, recovery, and growth. And this system, the body itself, has that ability to continue that almost perpetual type of energetic expression. So in other words, it just needs a few things. Where you properly hydrate the body, you properly nourish the body, you notice, will continue to operate, right? You don't have to stop at the gas station every 200 miles and refuel the car. You refuel the body through what you eat, the light you ingest through the sun, the water you intake, and nature, as well as grounding. So Doc mentioned something very distinct there. When people are drinking these drinks, they have caffeine in them. They're not giving you energy. There's no energy in the caffeine. It's just engaging your adrenal system, right? It's telling the body artificially to shoot out a little bit of adrenaline to make you feel like you got energy. It's not real. It's just pretend. And so the more we do that, the more adrenal stress that we wind up placing on the body, the more dysfunction the body winds up being within, because we get more and more dependent on it. The body stops doing the things it naturally does by producing its own energy because of the way you act, by your putting in artificial things. Now, I also want to talk about, too, the Healy, when you're putting the microcurrent in there, the Healy has a battery in it. Okay. So our body doesn't take a lot to recharge, but it does produce a lot with it. It's very efficient if we are allowing it to be efficient. The body wants to be efficient. It wants to thrive. It wants to grow. It wants to repair. But we tend to go to work through our thoughts, our beliefs, our habits, what we ingest. Sometimes like that, we tend to be incoherent with that. The Healy take this number down, 1 to the 10th power electrons into the cell. 1 to the 10th. Now that's a huge number if you were to spread that out. That's how much power, or I should say electrons, the Healy puts into the body. And electron flow, I want to get a little techie for a moment. This is my fun part. I like to talk about this because electron flow, when you plug a cord into the wall and then you turn on a lamp, right? We talked about a flashlight even. If you have batteries in there, you turn the switch on. There's electron flow through the circuitry to turn the bulb on. So when you have electron flow from point A to point B, say from source to load, that electron flow has an associated magnetic field. It emanates a magnetic field off of that flow. That's a natural phenomenon. It's just physics. And so when Healy is putting energy into us via the wires and the electrodes, and it's going through our body, that's electron flow. Okay, there's also magnetic energy emanating from that. It can be we can read that from instrumentation. We can also interact with those magnetic fields, and that's going to come into play when we start talking about the coil. But for now, I'm going to stick with just what the wrist bracelets are and the wires. As we're charging up the cells, like Doc was saying, understand that you as a human body, there's a phenomenon going on right now every second. 800,000 cells per second are being reproduced in your body. Now, you're not doing that, right? That's the intelligence I talked about earlier that's happening. And this process, and again, as Doc said, about every 7 years, every single cell within your body that's currently sitting there won't be here. They'll be replaced by new ones. And those new ones are influenced by your energy, because the way that the body acclimates to its environment is by preparing itself for the environment. So those 800,000 cells per second, now there's a quiz at the end of this, so write that down. 800,000 cells per second are being changed in your body right now. Now, some of those cells are some of your mucous membranes. Some of those cells are muscle. Some of those are brain. Some of those are blood. The internal cells around the stomach lining and the gastric system turns over about every 7 days. Your blood cells about every 90 days. Muscle cell about every 200 days. Bone cell is the years. But the point is 800,000 per second are happening right now. And this is the epigenetic phenomenon. I want you to understand that those cells, only 3% of that genetic code actually says it's going to be a digestive system cell, a bone cell, a muscle cell, a blood cell. Only 3%. The other 98%, once upon a time, was thought, oh, that's just junk DNA. Nobody needs that. Only 3% creates the code. The other 97% is the antenna, reading the energy of the environment. It's reading the energy of the environment. So what kind of energy is your environment being subjected to? Well, we've got the wristbands on, and we've got the wires, and we've got the frequencies going through our body, raising the energy of those cells, cell by cell, 800,000 per second. Also talking to the current living cells that are in your body, but also at the same time, giving proper signaling to the ones that are being birthed in that second. So look at the power you've got. Now, also, I want you to understand your thoughts have a big part of this. Because how many of you guys, and I see this all the time, when I worked with the fitness industry, I was in clubs for years, year after year after year. I would work with these clubs, and I'd see the members. And I'd see them coming in, and they'd work out like crazy, and they'd never changed. Year after year after year, they'd look really similar, right? They're kicking it in the gym, but they're not changing much. And that's because most of the time what was happening is their mind was sabotaging most of the work they were doing. The power of the mind is immense, and it will overcome almost anything that happens in the physical sense. So we've got to align both thought and body, or mind and body. And Healy helps in both those ways. So one of the biggest things, like we talked about, the microcurrent helping the cell membrane voltage, the birthing of those 800,000 cells coming into a better energetic expression, making you a better version of yourself.
You said 1 to the 10th power.
Well. Oh, Samantha, I think I hear you.
I'm control.
The other part of that is the energy of the Healy helping us with our, let's just call it our peace, right? So helping balancing the thoughts, helping us to balance some of the emotional bodies, and that's another realm in which it works. So that's a pretty good opening outline of what the microcurrent does, and then a little introduction about how we produce a magnetic field. You want to capitalize on any of that, Doc?
No, but I'd like to maybe now move into how the coil comes into play here, because there are 3 ways of delivering current, or I should say energy into the body, and the coil is the newest way. And what is the Healy Coil? Well, basically, the Healy Coil, if you were to take it apart, is 2 Tesla coils, which are superimposed on one another in about an 180 degree offset by 180 degrees. And basically what happens when you do that, you create a magnetic field that basically cancels each other out to the point of what's called a 0-point field, sometimes referred to as vector potential. But the bottom line is that the word potential is the key word here, because that potential is really the ability to give limitless amounts of energy and information into the body. And so, whereas the microcurrent basically affects the physical level, as we start to move into something like the coil, we're now really influencing more of the bioenergetic and the information fields of the body. So I think, Marcus said it best in terms of saying that what the coil does is basically it bridges the gap between the physical and the spiritual or the information field. And it's, it allows us to deliver frequencies in a different methodology. So it's not necessarily influencing the actual current, but it is a very, very powerful way of delivering frequency into the body. And with that, it's recommended that when you do use the coil, that you place it as close to the body as possible. And by placing the coil in different areas of the body, you'll be achieving, and it can affect different effects. So we do, have various programs that come with the Healy, and one of the newest programs is what's called the Coherence Program. And the Coherence Program is an alignment program, and basically, aligns the brain and the heart. And I know, and I'm sure you can speak to this, Ken. Joe Dispenza spends a lot of time speaking about that coherence between the brain and the heart. So wearing the Healy with the coil around your neck, you're influencing, that level or that area, and bringing everything into alignment or coherence, the cells, the organs, the body, and then even going beyond the body, your actual interaction with other people and other people's energy, and then, of course, your interaction with the planet itself. So to me, it's really exciting that we now have this additional form of delivering frequencies, very, very powerful. It's not in replace of the microcurrent, and I always like to say that because, it was put out initially as now we have a way of delivering, Healy frequencies without having to wear the wristbands. But it's not instead of, as opposed to, it should be looked upon as in addition to, because as Marcus has said, and as I agree to, irregardless of the number of times you use your coil and wear your coil every day, it's always important to remember to run a number of microcurrent programs per week, because you're always wanting to get the benefit of what the microcurrent does. So you want to jump on this, Ken, and talk a little bit more about the coil itself?
Yeah, absolutely. To the point of that hydration issue is that, the better hydrated you are, the better electrolyte protocol you've got within your body, the body becomes a better conductor, just like a wire. I talked about extension cord plugged into the wall. The body is essentially the cord. It is a conductive material. And so just keep that in mind as it being a conductive antenna that's sitting there operating in its environment as a receiver or a reader or an antenna of the environment. And the more dehydrated you are, I mean, here's some specs from the physical attributes of hydration from an athletic perspective. Just 10% dehydrated. Dehydrated by just 10% dehydrated will equal up to 3% loss of energy. Other way around. 3% dehydrated is 10% loss of energy, 8% loss of muscle strength. So just a 3% dehydration will actually take a lot of your energy and power away. So one of the ways you want to increase your energy, just drink more water.
But then, of course, Ken, and we have the opposite part here, which is really important to say. And what dehydrates us the most? Coffee. Which is the thing that people drink to get. It's like a vicious. When you think about it, it's kind of interesting how people do things and don't realize, the inherent imbalances that they create because they think they're achieving something when in fact what they're actually achieving on a biochemical level is exactly the opposite of what they're trying to create. So if you are drinking coffee, then you actually have to add additional levels of water into your system to replenish and make up for the amount that you're losing. And it's not just coffee, it's alcohol, it's a lot of things, red meat, a lot of things we put into our body actually create, dehydration. But, in terms of the coil itself, one thing I didn't mention that kind of gives you maybe a little bit of a better understanding of how this particular works is that, we look at light, and light is composed of what we call particles and waves. And we can look at kind of the coil in terms of how it kind of bridges that gap, because the particle of a light is what we see, so it's more on the physical level, and the wave of a light is not necessarily seen, but it's more of a potential of where that can be at any one time. So that's a perfect example in a way when you look at light as akin to how the coil operates. It really works to transmit from the physical, to the potential of more of the information field. It's like that it holds that space in between to do that.
Doc Steve, you have some kind of discomfort in some body part. Would you believe that coil should be then maybe placed on that specific body part? Or should
Absolutely, yes. The closer the coil is placed on the specific area of imbalance and running the proper frequency programs with it will absolutely affect that particular organ system. And again, with coherence, brain and heart, say you want to, work, on the meridian levels of the body or the chakras, then we can wear it on, various levels, like on the belt to work on the lower chakras. And yes, the closer the distance is to the particular area of the body that you're trying to influence, the better results you're going to get, because that vector potential, I like to sometimes refer to it as, more people know it in terms of what's called like scalar or scalar wave types of technology. It's a very specific directive type of a wave that's very powerful, and it also penetrates very, very deep, whereby using, say, the Healy without anything connected, you can still do that, but it's actually only what I would refer to as a weak electromagnetic field. So it will have an effect, but it's a weak electromagnetic field, whereas the coil itself has that potential that allows us to really penetrate very deeply, energetically, without being influenced by any other of those issues out there.
Amazing.
Let me tell you about that. I'll tell you how that particular part works. So I was kind of showing you the picture of the coil. You can kind of see a circular area in the center of the green. There's this circular area, and then there's two copper pins right here. So the circular area is the actual Tesla coil that Doc's talking about. There's actually two of them in there. And when current flows into these pins, just like when you connect the leads to your Healy, you've got one wire that connects maybe to the left wrist, the other wire to the right wrist. Now you're running current flow through the body, right? And it's coming out of Healy through the body. All right, so now what's happening when you connect the coil to it, that same current flow is coming out from one pin into the other pin, but it's going through the coil. Instead of going through the body, it's going through this very, very, very fine circular striation of wire. And there's two of them there. They're sandwiched like this. But the way they operate is they when you run, like I told you earlier, when you run electron flow through a conductor, through a wire, it creates a magnetic energy, right? A magnetic wave. So that's what's happening right here. When you run the current flow from one pin through the coil to the other pin, now a magnetic wave is emanating from that electron flow. Now there's two of these magnets sandwiched on top of each other. So there's two magnetic waves, and they're set 180 degrees off of each other. So there's two waves being propagated out of the coil in opposite directions, creating that vectoral reference that I told you about, that Doc was saying about, building a 0 point field. Basically a zero, there's nothing, it's a field of absence.
And potential.
Well, it's literally, there's a potential, it's limitless potential when there's nothing influencing it. So in the work with Dr. Joe Dispenza, we work on getting to the darkness, the space, right? Getting to nowhere. You leave the body behind, you leave all the ego behind, you leave all of the things behind so you can thread the needle into the information field. Okay, when you leave all that behind and you're just nothing but an awareness, just a consciousness in space, and there's not even time there, then there's infinite potential. Now you can align with one potential thing at a time by just simply putting an intention in there. Okay, so we're doing the same thing with these two magnetic waves. Now we've left everything behind, and we're sitting in this infinite space of possibility. And then what do you think's plugged in there? The frequency, the exact frequency necessary to align whatever it is that program's trying to accomplish. Now we're in sorry about the cuckoo clock. Now we're in a space of potential, infinite potential. And tapped in there as an intention are the frequencies that Healy is sending for you. So, I mean, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. I mean, now what we're doing is we're through a machine, through a system, being able to do what we're doing in this meditative state, right? But we could just dial it in. We could be actually driving a car instead of spending time in a meditative state, driving a car, getting the same infinite potential frequencies into the body, or playing basketball, or having dinner with our friends, or hanging out with Max out at the bar. I mean, we could be doing whatever we want, getting all of that potential into the body at the same time. So now we've just opened the door, right? We've opened the door to another possibility. And that's the kind of the nuts and bolts of how the coil works when you've plugged it in to your Healy.
So it actually goes both ways, basically. It goes to the front and it goes to the back. So if you have a coil in the middle and you hug somebody for 30 minutes, it's most efficient for both, right?
Yeah, so it's definitely, so the coil, if you took a look at the actual magnetic eminence, how it propagates out of the device, it's like a dome coming off the top and kind of a dome coming off the bottom. And so when you turn it this way and you put it on your lapel, now it's going to the front of you and to the back of you, right? And so it's basically emanating through you. And we do have that intensity adjustment within the app. You go from 0% to 100%. So as you crank up that intensity, what it's doing is it's placing more and more current flow, more electron flow into the coil. So you're actually strengthening that wave or that magnetic energy. Okay, you're strengthening. Like Doc said, when you don't have the coil hooked on and you don't have any connections, and you're just running the Healy all by itself, whether it be in the resonance mode or pink dot or a blue dot app, either way, the noise generator inside of this device is a frequency transmitter. It's literally transmitting the frequencies out of Healy, but it's very low power. Okay, so having it on your body, yeah, you're going to receive it. The coil is an amplifier as well as a kind of we'll call it almost like a dual channel. It's two magnetic fields opposite each other, but it's also an amplifier, so it can actually increase that magnetic field. Right.
And very deep penetration too. So that's why it's so powerful.
And I want to talk about how it's doing that for a moment. Remember I said the body being this hydrated antenna? So just like when you send a signal from a radio station and you tune your radio in your car to pick up 102.4, whatever your station is. And radio transmitter, wherever it is, has a lot of power going up this antenna. So what it's doing is it's shooting current flow up this antenna, and on that current is a very specific message or information. It goes up this antenna, and that current flow creates magnetic waves. All right, just like I told you before, no matter what current flow you have, every time you have electron flow, you have magnetic waves. So those magnetic waves transmit outward from the antenna, and they go everywhere. And they go a long ways. You can pick up a radio station from your car 50 miles away, right? Or 10 miles away, or whatever. And so there's a lot of energy being sent out into free space. Now, the car itself has this antenna on it. So whenever there's a current flow going up an antenna from a radio station, it's creating a magnetic wave going out into free space. Every time that magnetic wave passes by a conductor, it creates current flow. So it's an opposite effect, right? So one way, there's a magnetic wave being sent out from an electron flow. Another way, there's electron flow created by a magnetic wave. So you essentially are the antenna. Your body is the antenna. So these magnetic waves that are moving around the world are condensing on your body and creating current flow, information, and your body's picking it up. So think of the coil as a magnetic generator and you as the antenna. Again, another way in which the body's picking up this magnetic signal full of information. What information? The frequencies that Healy is sending. So you're getting kind of a twofold experience. So is the people around you. So when we get to a point where we have 1 million Healys out there transmitting coherent signals around whatever that person wants to run, all the bodies, aka antennas, standing around are going to be receiving that energy as well.
As a matter of fact, Ken, once a week, what we've been doing now as an experiment as a group is that hundreds of us with Healy's coils have been getting together on a Saturday afternoon all over the world, running the coherence program simultaneously out there to the world just to create more and more coherence, which is a wonderful thing. And the more people that join in and do this, obviously, the bigger the effect. But I also wanted to just drop in here, too, that, the coil is not only to be used for the body itself, but another way of using the coil is to just literally place the coil next to a glass of water or a pitcher of water. And what you can do is you can transfer any of the frequencies from the Healy directly into the water and then drink the water, which is a great carrier of frequency throughout the day. So you have another methodology now of bringing, frequencies in your body. And of course, we're 70% water and frequencies are transmitted through water. So if we're drinking it, we're absolutely getting, a powerful effect by doing it that way. And then another way of doing it too is to just take the Healy itself and say you want to change the frequency in your bedroom. Run one of the clearing programs and just have the Healy sitting in the room with the coil on it, and it will be sending out those frequencies to clear that room. So it's not just using the coil on ourselves, but now we have a way of transmitting those frequencies into something we can actually intake like water, or we can actually bring it into a room and clear a room. So it has multiple possibilities in terms of how to use this coil.
It's so good, Doc Steve. This is such a beautiful way to start become creative, right? I mean, with the water is an amazing idea. Maybe we can stay with that before we wrap up, because we almost for 1 hour here and people love the coil. So how else can we apply the coil to us, Doc Steve? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. So, for example, we have also the resonance application, right? So we have the buffalo remedies. We have all these things that we can run and vibrate. Can we actually use the coil in the resonance application and vibrate those buffalo remedies with the coil into our field? Would that make a difference, or how?
Well, yes and no in a way, because basically the coil is designed to be used specifically for the individual microcurrent frequency programs, which are primarily the programs that are in the pink dot app as opposed to the ones that are in the blue dot app. And the way to know which ones to use is that if you look at any particular program in your Healy, you'll notice with the circle at about the 2 o'clock to the right of the circle, there are 3 tiny little circles. And those programs that contain those 3 tiny little circles are the ones that are what are called the IMF programs, programs and the ones that are basically set up to be used with the coil specifically itself. You see, when we're doing the Bach flower remedies, we don't really need to have the coil, because in the resonance app, the resonance is sending the frequencies directly into the information field, and things like Bach flower remedies are frequencies inherently in themselves, so you want them to go directly into the information field. So you wouldn't really necessarily have to do that, but we really focus more on using it for the Pink app programs and the programs that are used more for the microcurrent and the ones that are the IMF programs.
What Steve is already showing it here. You see the small dot on top of the symbol. You can see it on 230 or something. This is the symbol for using the coil. So it's in the Pink dot app. These are the specific programs used for the microcurrent and for the coil as well.
Yeah, Ken, if you speak, they'll be able to see your picture come up big while you're showing it.
If you take a look at the picture on the screen here, at the top of every, not all of them, but some of the little icons for the program, right here at the top corner, there is a little icon that looks like, I'll blow it up for you. Okay.
3 circles in a triangle.
3 little circles in a triangular shape. That means it's optimized for the coil.
Right.
Okay. So that's what that.
Lastly, also, Doc Steve, how do you, would you recommend the coil now, for example, pregnant women or people?
Yes, the great question here, because I'm getting that question in the here. Whereas the microcurrent obviously has certain contraindications. You obviously don't want to run the microcurrent on somebody that's pregnant, somebody that has a pacemaker, for example, somebody that gets epileptic seizures, because of the potential that, putting current into that can create a problem. But when you're using things like either the resonance or the coil itself, and you're not working with the electrical component, it is safe to use in all of those other conditions. And again, another point here is that it's recommended to do no more than, say, 3 to 4 microcurrent programs per day. But when you're using the coil, you literally have unlimited amount. You can run that thing all day long with as many programs as you want, and there's no problems or issues doing it that way.
I want to also remind everyone too that, like I mentioned before, you have microcurrent running through the coil, aka electron flow. Where's that coming from? It's coming from the battery within your Healy. And a lot of people are cranking it up to 100%. You don't necessarily have to crank it up to 100% on the intensity. You crank it up till you see a white indicator, just like anything else. Right. The higher you go, the more current flow into the coil, aka the more drain on the battery. So if you're going to run this guy all day, you're going to drain the battery pretty fast. So especially if you're at 100%, because it is consuming electron flow, which is coming from what I call the battery is a bucket of electrons. And when you pour it out, you got to refill it.
And interestingly enough, maybe you guys can confirm that for me. Like every time you switch on your Healy, you press the button, and maybe you don't have your phone with you right now, it will replay the last program that was played before. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
That's correct.
So, yeah. So, for example, you're running the coherence program, you run it with your phone, and now the Healy is off. You click on the Healy one time, you put it back on your shirt with the coil, and it's running again the coherence. You can run it like this all day long without connected to the Bluetooth, without connected to your phone. You just run the Healy by click of one button. Okay.
Yeah, it always remembers the last program that you downloaded. So whatever the last program was that you downloaded, it will always show up, and you can run it over and over and over again just by pressing the start button there.
Yeah, and you'll be able to tell, because when you hit the start button, the green light starts to flash, and it'll just keep flashing for however long that program is, and then it goes off. It's not random that it just goes off in an hour or 55 minutes or whatever. It's because it's running a program for that period of time.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, Ken, I let you maybe finish, both of you guys, on 1 or 2 notes which you want to bring into the call for the very end before we wrap up, and then I say a couple words and then we finish up, because we already an hour right now. So maybe Ken, you can say like a few more words to whatever you want to say to the coil, to the microcurrent, and to anything what you have in your mind.
What I would love to share with everybody is that the calendar age of your body is just a number. It's literally just something that perhaps you rehearse and believe in. If you choose not to believe in a birthday and the age of your body, then your body won't believe it either. And so if you choose to keep on board with a thought, a belief, and an action that you are vibrant, that you are capable, that you are flexible, that you are strong. If you choose to believe that, then what's going to happen is the body's going to epigenetically become that. But you have to have enough belief in it that it's going to happen. So the energy within our body, the energy that we're placing within our body from Healy, is now being coherent, is now being in alignment, is now being in balance with this growth, repair, and recovery process that the body's naturally wanting to be in. So in closing, what I would say is that don't let anybody tell you how old you are, and don't let yourself tell you that I'm getting older and, oh, that's just pain because I'm getting older. No, I'm sorry. I just turned 58 years old, went skydiving for the first time in my life, and I've never had more muscle mass on this frame than I did when I was 20. So there you go. That's the truth. And there ain't no more.
For sure. And I could even tag on to that, by saying that, I'm going to be 70 on my next birthday, and it's hard for me to actually believe that. But it's the truth. But that's only on a physical level. It's not what's going on up here. But I want to dovetail into what you said and end this by saying that one of the things we didn't mention, but to me is probably the most important concept of all in terms of using the Healy, is what's called the concept of intention. Because intention will determine how well these programs work for you. And what I mean by that is before you start to run a program, you need to hold a positive, focused intention of what you would like the outcome to be. And the more of that intention you hold, the better the ability is to achieve that. And I always like to bring it back to myself. And many of you have heard my testimonial about how I got why I was so excited about Healy, in that I had, been in a really near fatal car crash, 20 some odd years ago that left me with some, specific ongoing problems and injuries. And up until the time I got Healy, I couldn't find anything to assist me in reversing it. And ultimately I did it in a very, very quick way. I believe because of the microcurrent, of course, and also the specific frequencies. But when I used the Healy, my intention was that my specific intention was not like the pain would go away or the inflammation go away or the neuropathy would go. That's not what my intention was. My intention was that I'd be able to drive my car again normally, because in the last 2 years, unfortunately, because of what was going on, I no longer was able to drive my car. And so therefore, when you do create that intention for what it is you're trying to work on, make sure it's positive, make sure it's in the current tense, it's present, and don't use the name of the disease or the condition that you're trying to reverse in terms of what your intention is. Because if you put it out, I'm trying to get rid of my headache, guess what happens? What the information field hears is the word headache, regardless. And so it just continues that on. But you may want to say something like, I want my head to be clear and relaxed, and things of that nature. But that intention that we place when we either scan ourselves or we start that program is the ultimate part that guides the frequencies and guides that whole program into how it's going to work with us. So don't underestimate it, okay? Really take a moment and a time, make it a sacred moment before you actually run a program on yourself to really, think about what it is that you're trying to achieve, that you're trying to create. Make sure it's positive, make sure it's in the present tense, and put that, it's almost like an affirmation in a way. I am healthy, I am well. You want to put it out there, and I'll tell you, there's a difference between people that get great results with the Healy and people that get okay results with the Healy and people that don't get great results with the Healy. And what I have found when I've questioned them in terms of how are you doing the session? Well, of course, some of them are dehydrated. So right away, they're missing a big piece. And so their session's not going to be as great as somebody that's well hydrated. But then when I ask them what they're asking for, a lot of people, unfortunately, because they're just programmed that way, are actually putting the intention out using the specific condition that they're trying to let go of, but they're putting it in their intention. So they're actually just continuing to create that same situation again and again. So if I leave you with anything, that to me is one of the most important pieces of devices when we're working in the information field, regardless if it's with the Healy or if it's something we're trying to create in our life or manifest in our life. Our intentions are the most important, and they have to be positive and present. And if you do that, you'll create miracles.
I love it, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. And maybe I want to leave you guys all with a note. and tell you all that you are powerful beyond your greatest imagination. Every single one of you guys, because you are energy and you have trillions of cells inside of you with a mini voltage. And you combine this, and I don't know how many lightning strikes it is, but you are more powerful than maybe 30 lightning strikes, maybe thousands. I don't know what it is. But guys, this is crazy. And the information today shared is really, really amazing. And again, I want to touch on one more thing is we are just at the beginning of something, guys. This is Healy and it just launched, right? It's not even, for me, it's not even launched. The pre-launch now is 1st of July. The actual launch will be 2022, number 1 January. This is when we launched this company. Everything that we have done right now, we proved something. We proved that this is an amazing tool. Now there's a coil coming with a technology which is absolutely incredible. We are jumping into the information field with a new way of making ourselves holistically better. You know, what else do you believe can come to this? It's unbelievable. Every time we think about how big this actually can get, we tap into something we think way too small. I'm telling you guys, we are thinking way too small. It's this 3rd year we're now in, and we're already talking about the next level and the next level. Guys, this is the most exciting moment that we have been in my life to be around in something like this. We're tapping into the most fundamental form of life, into energy. We are in the quantum field, in the information field. We are vibrating, broadcasting frequencies around the planet through COVID, through animals, humans, buildings, everything. Everything is energy. Guys, this is the most exciting time to be around. And I'm pleased to share this call with you guys. I'm pleased to have all of you guys here on the call tonight. It was really informative. We can't wait to do it next week again with another panel, with another interesting topic. And also, 1 hour before this panel, there will be this discovery call. And remember, this is July. It's the last month where we can get and grab a Healy Resonance with all frequency programs, with all the resonance applications, with the aura scan, with everything, lifelong for the rest of our life. The last time this month, guys. So don't go not out and share to people, because you don't want anybody to tell you, hey, why didn't you share this, as long as the promotion was on there. So make it your responsibility. Go out and share it to more people. It's beautiful. It's magical. It's just the beginning, guys. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, tonight. Maybe if you want, I know it sounds crazy if we do it, but you can unmute now and show your appreciation, show that you're grateful, and say goodbye to everybody on this call. And you guys have a good night. Thank you so much, and goodbye.